Welcome back to the Daily Report and welcome to the Marketplace. Tonight, we're going to be discussing one of the few things that, of course, makes it to the headlines every couple of weeks. I'm talking about the gap between university education and, of course, the requirements of the field. Unemployment rate is soaring every day. Around 35% of the youth in this country are unemployed, and 1.3 million of this 35% have already given up. They don't see any hope. Of course, in studio, we have Professor Elijah Omwenga, who is just going to be telling us what exactly is happening in universities. You are the Vice Chancellor of the first Internet University, a lot of people would say. Would you call it the Internet University of Kenya?
Well, that's a good description, where we call it the Open University of Kenya.
Right.
Very really online, and that's a good term to describe it, the Internet University of Kenya.
The Internet University of Kenya. And of course, we have an educationist to just give us his perspective on things. Mr. Boaz Waruku is joining us from South Africa. He is there, of course, attending the International Teachers Task Force meeting in South Africa. Mr. Boaz, if you can hear me.
Thank you, my dear sister Hibak. I'm hearing you very clearly.
Fantastic.
And say hi to Professor, and thanks for linking me up.
Fantastic. How is South Africa?
South Africa is okay. I think the issues that people struggle with wherever they are, I think are just common. And indeed, I think because of the nature of the meeting I've been attending the whole of this week,
right.
The issues of the teachers, I mean, because this is a convergence of many actors, it is a global meeting, and you realize that actually we have a lot of challenges because when it is projected that we are still missing about 44 million teachers globally to be able to achieve the sustainable development goals by 2030. And of course, Kenya has its fair share of that number. Right. When it is still projected on the number of students or learners who are still out of school, a number of things. And indeed, I think it has been a great occasion because it has been informed by a lot of research. Right. Lots of papers have been shared, so I think I can't get to that because that's not necessarily the focus of our school today.
Of course, Mr. Boaz, thank you so much for your insights. We will be getting his insights on what he's doing exactly in the task force in Johannesburg and the continental needs of teachers. But first, gentlemen, I would like to play a clip so that we can get your views here in studio. Let's play the first clip. As we play that clip, gentlemen, of course, we do know that there are a lot of problems that the youth are facing currently. Mr. Boaz, you have said we need about 40 million teachers across the continent. Of course, there's a disparity between different countries, right? But first, let's see what exactly the Deputy President of this country has to say on employment after university.
Oh, mnasema mambo ya job. Eh? Hapo iko kibarua. I've told you, we want to be, I'm an honest man. I'm an honest man. I don't want to sit here and lie to you that we have jobs for you. These jobs we are going to create together with you.
Professor Omwenga, the Deputy President says we have no jobs for you, and he's saying this to graduates who are coming out of university. It's a very special day. I think we've all gone through that. It's a beautiful day. You have so much hope. You're going into the job market. You have hopes of having your own money at some point. What would you say about his statement?
Thank you so much, Madam Hibak, for having me in the studio. As you already mentioned, Professor Elijah Omwenga, the Acting Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Kenya. You call it the Internet University.
The Internet University.
Yes, I think the Deputy President has made a very important point. When we train or give knowledge and skills to our students at the university or higher institutions of learning, we are developing them to be useful people in the society. To be useful in the sense that when they graduate with the skills or the degrees that they have acquired, they not only have to find a place in formal employment, which is still important for us to grow our economy and provide services, but also use the skills, the knowledge, and the experience that they gain over time to create employment for themselves, so that they are not only job seekers, but also job creators.
Right.
Because when we are giving entrepreneurial skills, for example, we want the students who graduate to be going out there to scan the market and see where they fit, where the skills which they have acquired fit in the new dispensation and the economy that we are growing. Secondly, you see, the students we are developing now, the graduates of today, the jobs of tomorrow will be different. And therefore, we are growing these people to be useful not only now, but also in the future, for jobs which you are not very sure how they will look like. So growth, individual growth from day to day, from time to time, is also important in order to fill any gaps that may arise as the jobs evolve in the marketplace. Because we are also growing an economy which is a little bit uncertain on how it pans out as the internet and other things change the way we work. Yes.
And we are living in a very dynamic
exactly,
world.
in a very dynamic environment, and therefore we expect that our graduates will not only be people useful in their respective countries to provide services, needed services, but also to be creators of jobs for themselves and others, and also to be useful in the future for jobs we are not yet very sure how they look like.
Right, Professor Mwengo, of course, those are very important sentiments to have, considering we're about to take a deep dive into this particular debacle tonight. I don't know if Mr. Boaz, our educationist, heard that video. Nice. Maybe if you could just give us your sentiments on that, your thoughts on that. What exactly do you feel the Deputy President was saying, and how exactly was this taken, especially for people who dispense knowledge?
Thank you very much, Hibat. And first and foremost, let me tell you that an occasion like that is one that should be elevating the spirit of the graduates. And indeed, you should use the occasion just also to reassure them a lot more. But you see, the Deputy President was talking to the people he's been dealing with, and probably he knows what he was delivering. But I would have approached it a little bit differently, because the first thing that we should know is that the kind of education that we get, right from the very lowest level, kindergarten, primary, secondary or high school, to the university, by the time a person reaches that level, this person really has acquired a lot of knowledge. We do assume, because you can't just be passing through those stages without acquiring the knowledge, developing certain skills, and having the right attitude really to integrate within the society. And indeed, these are people who can also be very creative. They must have seen where there are loopholes. They could be having ideas. I would have been thinking that these are people then that you can just challenge them a little bit to realize that they have the knowledge to be able to be creators, and indeed give them the full assurance that as a government, you will support them in the endeavors that they do, and also that you'll put in place the right policies, because it is the policies that would help to shape the country. And indeed, because I will always say that, the strategy for growth and development of a country is what would make even the industry to start that kind of a linkage and start thinking of how do we work together to create this kind of, the programs and innovations, because that is the only sure way through which we'll be able to enable these young people to engage. But let me also tell you one thing. Those people who graduated at that level, we should not also be making them think of education just for the market. Just for that. Education for education's sake is also very sweet. Indeed, if we can have as many of our citizens getting that level of education, you'll realize that even the thinking will change. The creativity will change, will be enhanced, and such things would really happen. They would even start becoming their own creators of the many jobs that would employ several of the other people. But you should not actually be prescribing doom
Right.
to a people who have really prepared so well and worked so hard to reach that level.
Right.
Maybe the truthful man was being truthful, but it is subject
Might have
to
been misconstrued, right? How much truth is too much truth is what Mr. Boaz is saying. Professor, I'm seeing you itching to give a reply.
I think, thank you, Bwana Waruka, for those very nice sentiments.
Right.
Just to add, yes, the deputy president may have said the truth as it is, but sometimes it's better said that way. So that you give not only the reality as it is,
right.
so you prepare the minds of these young people that the world out there is waiting for them
right.
to recreate it through the knowledge that they have gained. I think that's one very important aspect of it. But also on the other hand, to ensure that these people are mentally prepared
right.
to start working towards self-employment, right from the college that they have graduated from. I think, to me, I look at it more of a very serious impetus that is being given to these young people.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
but
is
also,
good.
yes.
Which is good, especially considering that one must have, some sort of aspect of reality when they're going into the job market. I can tell you from experience, it's really not the easiest thing. And maybe going into the internet to find employment would be the next step that a lot of these students should be taking. And the Open University of Kenya is a child born of the internet.
Exactly. If
right.
you know, when we were chartered on the 3rd of August last year by His Excellency the President, he said that he wants his students in class in about a month or so.
Right.
And sure, to his challenge, we are now a university fully chartered and running, fully established. We have 1,500 students who are learning. We have several other 7,000 who have expressed interest.
Right.
Why? Because the Open University is a flexible mode of delivery of knowledge.
Right.
You learn from the comfort of your zone. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter whether you're in Kenya or out of Kenya. It doesn't matter whether you are in the office or at home. The flexibility. Second, the Open University is enabling access to higher education using the internet and technology, so to speak.
Right.
And therefore, you are providing an avenue for lifelong learning, those who didn't have an opportunity early on in their lives because of grades, and therefore that's the element of inclusivity, the third point.
Right.
We are looking at everybody who has a desire to get higher education, to retool, to reskill, to have that opportunity to come to the Open University in a flexible manner, accessible through the internet, and including everybody who never had that chance, because we have an admission criteria that is very, very accommodating.
Right. Professor Boaz, then one would ask, education has been made quite accessible in the country from 2002 when, free education, free primary education did come through for a lot of middle-class people. Now, in perspective, we have around 2,396 TVETs in the country. We have 68 universities in the country, of which 35 are public and 33 are private public higher education institutions, increasing by around 52%. That is around 2015. Having all these numbers, you can just tell that we are growing as a country when it comes to the dispensation of education. But Professor, one would then ask,
yes.
We have all these people who are graduating. We have great professionals. Kenya is one of the best labor markets across, the continent, across the world. Where exactly are we going wrong when it comes to employment? Why are there so many unemployed people?
Well, thank you. That's a question which the economists have always grappled with.
Right.
But as Boaz mentioned earlier on, there is need for us to develop an environment which will bring about economic growth.
Right.
Because when you have economic growth of a higher rate, then you are creating employment, because there are jobs to be done, there's construction to be done, there are roads to be constructed, and therefore people will be employed to do that. Right. People will be able to employ people to construct their, or rather, people to construct their houses. So we are looking at an economy which must support the graduates that we are producing.
Right.
But also the policies which are in place have to be supportive of employment of these graduates.
Yes.
For example, if we are saying for you to get a job, you must have served in a previous job for 3 or 4 years before you're employed, the issue of experience. And yet we have so many other graduates out there who are looking for jobs as you come in. So that's a policy shift to ensure that anybody who is good, irrespective of when you are employed, and so long as you have the right attitude, you have the right qualifications, you should compete effectively in the marketplace. But also importantly, I think the way we are now defining jobs, they don't have to be things that you're going to an office to sit and start writing papers and
the typical white-collar
We are talking about jobs on the internet. The president has been very clear on this.
Right.
And it's not a joke when he says you can make dollars by clicking and pressing buttons. That is, well, figuratively, you may think it is a joke, but indeed, if you are looking at jobs, so to speak, business process outsourcing, you do that from anywhere, and that's where the Open University is coming in. You can sit wherever you are, and you get a job outside the country, and you execute it from the comfort of wherever you are. And so you have these people who are employed to serve other countries, companies outside their jurisdiction. In this country right now, we have thousands of those kind of jobs, and people are getting into them. So one has to search hard enough, one has to reskill so that you are fit for purpose. And this is where we are talking about small short courses, which will bridge the gap between what you may have learned in class in a degree program and the evolving job marketplace, so that you reskill yourself, you get the micro credentials required to fit specifically for these evolving jobs on the internet. I'll give you an example. A company in the US wants somebody or a young person to look at the medical records and ensure that they are well arranged for purposes of searching. Okay? So these medical records may have been done in a manner that they are not amenable for effective searching. So you want to employ somebody to do that, to write a small code, a small application to do that. You employ somebody not necessarily in America, but right here in Kenya, and such jobs are there. So writing small applications for companies or institutions out there is one of the things that our graduates should be looking forward to. And those are jobs which the president has been talking about.
Right, Professor, I agree to some degree with your sentiments, but I have to, call in Mr. Boaz from South Africa to just come and give us his sentiments as well. Mr. Boaz, if you can hear me, of course, the professor was saying that one must be fit for purpose. One must, do short courses that would help them gain, more knowledge to fit these skills. But then if I am a person in university and I've gone through 4 years of education, I don't see the need to do another course. Do you feel like maybe our education systems, our curriculums should be changed, our courses should be adjusted so that those mini courses should be a part of the main courses that we do?
Congratulations to Professor Mwenga as the founding Vice Chancellor of the Open University. And indeed, I have to commend the initiative of establishing such a university because it is consistent with the principle of ensuring that we have opportunities for lifelong learning. In other words, you can access learning until you are down completely, and the opportunity that if you're working somewhere, you still have an avenue really to upgrade yourself, even what is talking about upscaling and all that. And actually, the fact that you see I'm making these comments live from very far away is a confirmation that indeed this is the time and age when we should also be looking at the digital options on how work can be created and all that. I think what for me I would be talking about, because you've profiles as indicated that reaching in, maybe doing 1 or 2 small courses here and there. Yes, it would be useful that every time, every day, learning takes place in several spaces and several areas. But we just need to have them organized in a way that would be very helpful to the person that then continues to learn. For instance, if by the time somebody graduates from a university, you realize that this person is deficient of certain skills. I think we need to review and evaluate such programs to understand what could be the missing link, so that when a graduate emerges, say from Daystar University, from any other university, a graduate who is like, I love ugali, ugali that has been well done, that you can throw on the wall and it bounces back. Ugali that is the skills that you're talking about, the depth of knowledge, and even the attitude, because, the knowledge that when we go to the universities or institutions of higher learning, it is not just for the papers and all that alone, but being more exposed to different things in life, and things which then you can utilize to help spur what we are talking about as growth and development of the country, and even creating other opportunities. So yes, I agree with the suggestion being made by Prof. And in fact, where he's looking at, I think that's a good vision. But I would rather we started being consistent and planning ahead of time. Just imagine that if we had initiated, we'd gone ahead with the laptop per child program, do you know where we would be by now? Would be having many of these, because actually that was, if you say the children who were in grade 1 or class 1, 2012, 2013.
Right.
Those children are the ones who graduated from the high school and getting to university, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
I think so. And so you can imagine that there'll be people who have already been exposed to the ICT and the digital skills in a very significant way. I think what I'm basically trying, I'm using that as an example. I may not get all the facts right on it because I didn't get the time to review and check that. But what I'm simply telling you is, if we plan and put our ducks in a row, that we know that for us to reach where we want to be, then we plan very well with our education system to ensure that the education system is one first that has everyone absorbed in it. In other words, it allows access for all of our children, wherever they are, to be able to access it. And indeed, at every level that the transition takes place, and I like the very principle that we keep on picking up and we go with 100% transition, and that is very useful. But for me and with the Limubora, which I do advise, we keep on saying that we need to also look for those children who are out of school, because there are quite a number. And when we ensure that they are all on board, then it would be useful that the kind of education that they get is that of quality. And when we do that, in fact, the teacher's place in that process would be very, very significant. That teacher is the one that would now enable these learners even to start thinking of how do they, as themselves, become creators, become innovators, because right now people talk about innovation. At the Africa continental level, let me tell you, the Africa
Mr.
Union,
Boaz, just to interject,
the Department of Education Science.
Just to interject, Mr. Boaz, the professor here wants to add a sentiment onto that. But before even the professor gets a chance, to speak on this, I feel like we should talk about, the aspect that has been raised over and over again, the integration to the digital spaces. And as TV47, of course, we have to get the opinion of the people so that they also add on to this particular conversation and they could chime into this conversation. Let's play a clip, and then Professor Mwenga, you can take over.
All right.
The third clip.
Thank you.
University graduates are not meeting the job market because of lack of employment in Kenya. What is making Kenya now to be lag behind is that in most cases there are no jobs. In fact, the people who are now getting jobs in Kenya are people who joined the TVETs and skilled work, who have now the skilled work of doing their own jobs and get their self-employment.
Tumefuzu katika masomo yetu na kazi zipo ambazo tumesomea, lakini sasa shida kubwa ya kupata hiyo kazi ni ya kwamba unapata mtu ameapply kazi mara ya kwanza, mwaka wa kwanza, wa pili, wa tatu hajapata. inabidi anajihusisha na kazi ambayo hakuenda chuoni ama katika colleges zetu kusoma. Kwa sababu gani ninayosema hayo? Ni ya kwamba watu wamegundua ya kwamba unaweza enda shuleni ukasoma, lakini ukitafuta kazi hakuna ajira, kwa sababu ni lazima ukuwe na mtu mbele ama utoe pesa ndio upate ajira hizo.
Right, Professor and Mr. Boaz, those are the sentiments of Kenyans. We did go and ask them, what do you feel is, the gap? What do you feel is the problem that is emerging between these two different spheres? Professor, I'll give you a chance to reply first to Mr. Boaz and then to chime in on that.
Yes, just to underscore the fact that the issue of policies, which Bwana Boaz mentioned earlier, and coupled with what the speaker there has just spoken, the government, from what we are reading, is extending fiber to 100,000 kilometers across the country to every ward in the country. And what's the reason? The reason is to ensure that every place has a center of excellence or a center for digital skills to be given. It's also, the government is also ensuring that the young people or the youth are given the skills at the various polytechnics or other centers. That's why you see distribution of computers and programs and curricula which is geared towards giving these youth the necessary skills, so that then with the fiber available, broadband is connectivity which is high speed.
Right.
They are able to access opportunities for jobs which they can do online. That is a very clear path towards job creation and employment. Secondly, the speaker there has talked about the process of getting a job, that one has to part with something, etc. You see, first of all, before you even think about parting with some money, there must be a job in the first place.
Right.
So one has to look for that job, and whoever gets it, you are creating an opportunity elsewhere. So you are reducing the backlog of unemployed people and giving an opportunity in terms of the probability of one getting another job.
Just to clarify,
I'm not saying that one has to give money, but I'm saying whichever way, when you are getting people,
it's a lesser evil to part with a few.
You don't have to part with them.
Right.
No, it shouldn't be. That's of course criminal.
Right.
I'm saying there must be a job in the first place.
Right. It's proof, evidence that it exists.
That there is a job, you're being asked to pay for it. Whoever gets it, whoever gets it has created room for another opportunity for that who hasn't already gotten a job.
Right.
So the net sum is there is reduction of unemployed people in the marketplace, because there are jobs over there, because the people who need you will eventually get somebody, okay? And that somebody will, of course, level the playing field in the long run by creating opportunities for others.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, parting with money, I don't advocate for that.
Of course.
But I'm saying in the long run, there will be an opportunity for others to be employed.
Right.
Yeah.
The proof of evidence, of course, that is yet to be discussed. We still have 30 or so minutes to keep on this conversation. You can join us on X at TV47KE. Tell us what you think about it. At Hibak Said is my handle. Do send in your questions. We go for a very short break. We will be right back.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus ni
The concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking,
nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, knowing that a large percentage of our population is comprised of the youth, we're quite bloated in the middle. So that means that opportunities, there aren't enough opportunities to go around. I'll just call on Mr. Boaz. If Mr. Boaz, you can hear me. Of course, the professor, fantastic. The professor was talking about, the fact that if there are people who are saying that the opportunities that are there need bribing, that means that there are opportunities. What are your sentiments on this as an educationist? Do you feel like we have maybe enough slots for our very bloated youth sector?
Thank you, Hibak. I think the very first thing that we must realize is that certain
we're losing connection, I believe.
Hello?
Oh, we can hear you, yes. Continue, Mr. Boaz.
Okay. Yes, I'm saying that things should not pause.
We seem to be having technical issues. Right, as we sort that out, Mr. Boaz, we will be getting back to you. Professor, what are your sentiments on this?
Well, there is certainly a problem.
I see Mr. Boaz is back, though. Yes. No, not to cut you short, yes. Professor, but I simply must hear what Mr. Boaz says. Fantastic. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Do I go ahead?
Yes, please do continue.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was just indicating that I think a democratic Kenya after 2010 should be a Kenya where non-discrimination is really implemented, because that is Article 27 right. In other words, there shouldn't be a situation where one has to bribe for a service, for a job, for anything. Indeed, even before I reach there, for us even to start thinking of there's a job to be bribed for, we must ensure that those jobs are created. And when we are talking about the creation of the jobs, you say the multiplicity of the actors within, say, an industry. And here I say the intersection between the policies that the government or the various policymakers do make, and then they converge also with what is actually required in the country, in the particular industry, because you can break it down to the various industries. And in that case, the people that are angling towards serving in those industries are also people that they know we want to get in there because we want to improve it, not because we want to make it more toxic by promoting it as the sector where bribery indexes and all that are going high.
Right.
So for me, I would suggest, and I would negotiate that when we start thinking of creating job opportunities in Kenya, I think you cannot just it cannot just fall like, let's say, like a fruit from a tree.
Right.
We must start thinking of how is our education system structured and suited to ensure that the people being trained or being educated through it are those that first they're embracing the national values of a country like Kenya, the values that I think it's been hammered severally.
Right.
Yeah, the values of, just integrity. Integrity is a very important virtue.
Right.
The values of openness in when you're dealing with, if you're given space to act and do something else, you do it so transparently, so openly.
Right.
And consistency, I think, though that is not mentioned within our Article 10 of the Constitution, there's something that really makes us stagnate, because we could be having many ideas, but we stagnate or we procrastinate or we delay to the extent that almost people forget about it. For example, we did promise the young people that immediately they graduate, we'll ensure that they're absorbed even to do what we are calling internships and such.
Yes.
And that from there, they get the skills and then they get placed, or they can also create avenues through which they place themselves. But I think this has been diminished. We've also created the Employment Authority. Okay, I think that authority was established. Part of what that authority should be helping us with is some very good research that can help us even to think more broadly, wider than what we are scoping at. Because right now, I think this avenue of ensuring that every time our graduates come out, the only thing they can do is a desk and a pen, and nowadays the pens and the desk are not even needed because the CVs need to be done in a very clear manner. On the laptops and such, that they are struggling with the applications, sending letters here, left, right, and center. I think we need to rethink that kind of an process.
Right,
so
Mr. Boyce.
Sorry?
I hear you. Your sentiments are, it's getting the professor's attention. He would like to, reflect and answer on that. Let me hand it over to the professor so that you can also hear what he has to say.
I'm hearing some echoes, but I'm not so sure whether I can hear it.
I think our connection has been compromised a little bit. The same way, it has been compromised. You're saying the system has been compromised, the system of employment, the system of, integrating people who are educated, the students who are coming out of universities, and, their transition to employment. Professor, what do you have to say about that?
Yes, first I want to appreciate the comments from Weruka, quite good. Just to add that the issue of unemployment is not only affecting our country, Kenya. Right. It seems to be an issue across the globe. Several other countries are facing the same challenge of big unemployment rate for the youth. And that's why in this process of selecting courses, right now students are selecting courses for degrees at the various universities and TVETs.
The CUSPs, please.
Yes. So what is the criteria that a student is using to choose a course and not the other? It's about the market. What does the market want?
Right.
Is the course X good in terms of employability than course Y? And that information can be available in various government or even on the internet, authentic sources, so that now when you are choosing a course, because I'm going back from what Mr. Boas talked about, so that we don't flood the market with graduates in an area that is not requiring their expertise. Right. So it's also good for our young people as they go through the menu of the various programs which are there. Right. They look at the employability, the marketability of those courses, or even abroad, or even scaling to higher degree programs after the first degree. So those are the issues which I thought I should talk about. And it rings a bell very well with the Open University of Kenya. At the Open University of Kenya, we deliberately went to courses which we felt are having a good position in the market.
Right.
Courses like data science,
right.
cyber security, and internet, and courses on
Software
entrepreneurship, social, economics, and
Yes.
postgraduate diploma in leadership, which has attracted even CEOs in the country and beyond. So I'm underscoring the fact that Mr. Boaz mentioned issues of the market, and I'm saying yes, the market should be able to guide us so that we also gauge on the numbers that we are producing out there against the economy that we are growing over time.
Right.
But also, a small point I wanted to mention.
Right.
I think the shrinking of the opportunities for employability in our country is only, in my view, a matter of time.
Right.
Why am I saying this? Because we are rethinking. The country is rethinking, rebooting.
It's the systems
exactly
that
like the
Mr. Boaz was
Open
talking
University of Kenya is one way of addressing that issue, and also looking at the various weights which are carrying all this very important aspect of economic growth vis-a-vis the jobs that we are talking about. So in my view, it is a temporary situation as the rebooting and rethinking and expansion of those opportunities take place over time.
And of course, the graduates and the students who are coming from high school right now, who are about to be placed in universities, this is a very crucial time to choose, marketable courses, as the professor.
And digitalization, which is happening in the country right now, where everything is being digitized.
Right.
So many thousands of government services which are being digitized. Who is going to run these services? We need skilled people.
Right.
All right. We are not taking. Okay. I don't believe that digitalization is creating problems of employability. In any case, it is making things more efficient, and therefore an opportunity for more to come into the marketplace.
Right. And as you say this, let us get the sentiments of Kenyans on this particular subject, especially considering digitization and the growth in this respect. Let's have the second clip.
There's a very little coordination between industries and the market. Unapata kile kitu tunafundishwa si vile kwa job market iko. Many of the graduates wanatoka sahi, they can't even fit in the global labor market. Kwa sababu dunia imesonga sana. Ukiangalia kwa sasa, almost everything is collapse into three. They are collapsing into blockchain, data, and AI. Unapata watu wengi sasa graduates wanatoka, they don't even know how to leverage on AI to improve the environment, to improve the industries, to improve service delivery. Sasa mtu anatoka, globally the market, they are really using AI, artificial intelligence, to improve service delivery. Hapa hatuko.
That is Faustin Mgendi, a Kenyan, who is just giving his sentiments on what exactly he has seen is the market needs, the global needs, what exactly courses are offering, what people tend to veer towards. Professor, what are your sentiments?
Thank you. That's a good observation. But I want to say, when we create a curriculum to implement at the university level, we are developing a graduate who will be able to work in different areas.
Right.
Let me give you an example of an engineer who is being employed in a boiler sector.
Right.
This engineer will be trained on the right skills, the knowledge, and the concepts of dealing with machines and boilers. But there are boilers in the hotels.
Right.
There are boilers in manufacturing industries. There are boilers in all various big industries that you can think about, even in household.
Right.
So are you going to say that and when you're giving the concept, you think about all these things and bring them as knowledge that this person will apply in different situations. However, you may want this particular person who has been employed in an industry which is dealing with boilers to have specific knowledge of a specific brand. And therefore, the brand which has been manufactured by a company Y will have to give extra on-site induction. And that is what we're talking about, internship or a postgraduate induction, in order to ensure this person is well grounded on the specific boiler, which you already learned the concept in class. That one does not mean you are repeating the same things in class, but you are enhancing the skills.
You're refining
exactly. But you cannot give that induction to somebody who is not an engineer, who has not been trained on boilers. You will take another 3 years to create that person. But here you only need about 3 months or a few weeks to bring this person to the level required to deal with those specific machines and boilers.
Right, Professor. Let me call in Mr. Boaz a little bit. Of course, it is important to refine your skills, to be able to define what you can do, and to be able to build up on it. Mr. Boaz, I don't know if you had, the sentiments of Mugendi, one of the Kenyans who was talking about IT, digitization, and of course the professor talking about giving us a very practical example of why it's important, and it is a self-initiative. It is a personal initiative to go and refine your skills. What are your sentiments on this?
Hibak, indeed, I had the gentleman whose sentiments for me are about what we consider to be the 21st century skills that will be required by any country, any industry, and indeed those skills need to be developed. Indeed, those become very, very basic skills that just like we used to talk about literacy and numeracy, the digital world which has come, there are certain basic skills that one would require to have. But I want to say also that, that there is a way in which, as we conceive the ideas of the kind of programs, the kind of trainings that we want to have, it may not necessarily really just fit exactly like we say the key and the knob in a particular way, precise way. But it is something that when you train these people, they have the knowledge and the skills and the ability to adjust. In other words, they are flexible, they are versatile, they can cope and adjust to situations. The skills that they've acquired, the very basic skills, and a particular career path, will be the one that will now make them to become even creators more. And here is where I think the link with the industry that he was raising would come in, because I'm yet to come across that structured kind of arrangement where the industry really links up with most of our training institutes, including the TVETs, the universities, to the extent that any idea can be incubated, that an idea brought on board, even some further research can be done, so that that incubation can be done to the level that when it is right, then it can be replicated and even upscaled to the industrial level. I would be thinking that that could be some of the paths that we as a country may be thinking about. And two, it is also important that as we grow, because when you are growing the economy, definitely the citizens themselves grow, the children are becoming the youth and all that, that we do not create unnecessary competition and tension and bring in negativities that would largely influence the people. And in fact, I'm bringing this because when it comes to the issue of selection of which career path, which courses to undertake, you've seen cases where people, maybe I'll give a practical example, that over time people have been talking about tenders, or so there are those who think that when you are in procurement, then you have an advantage of doing well, because they have seen a lot of procurement officers. I don't know whether because many who were in government, according to the standards, did well. So you'll find a class, many choosing those courses because according to them, that is where so and so made it, and that is where many people made it. I think the factors which we should be considering and enabling, because we should also be advising these young people, enabling them to go ahead. It is not just that this is the path where you'll be able to make more money.
Right.
I know making money is good, yes. Right. I know having a good life, good time, there's nothing wrong with having that. But I would more deeply and looked at how do we develop that citizen in a way, and I'm saying even with the linkage that is being created to the various facets, the industries that are there, and there are some actually new areas, new horizons that will be opening up in this 21st century. There are some things which we may not even know now, but eventually they'll open up. I mean, the gentleman who was talking about the artificial intelligence, the robotics are coming in, many things are coming in, but not just in that area. Let me tell you, if we go even to agriculture, because I think, look at the Egerton, that used to be a college of agriculture, specializing in that, and now it's a full-fledged university and all that. Right. If we just say that the kind of innovation we require in agriculture, that now would be taken to the farmlands or to the farmers and communities through the agricultural extension officers who are well equipped, and they can be able to link up with those farmers. I think they'll improve the productivity, and through that we'll even get more other opportunities for the young.
Fantastic, Mr. Boaz. The professor would like to, of course, send in his sentiments as well. Professor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hibak, and thanks, Mana Boaz, for those good rejoinders from the clip that we saw earlier. Just one or two points. First, the technologies that the gentleman is talking about, we call them disruptive technologies. Yes. Because the word disruptive here is used in a very positive sense, in the sense that you're now thinking even without the box, redefining things in a new way, in a new order. And that's what we are doing in this country, and that's what's required, the young people, the government, and everybody else. You think without the box in order to create new opportunities, new environment, in order to thrive into the future. Right. But more importantly, I want to say that the industry has a role to play in terms of the manpower that we are producing in higher education. Right. They shouldn't just wait pretty and wait for the graduates to come through and give them opportunities to serve in their industries or in their areas of where they are producing. I think they not only have to give back in terms of the labs and supporting research, or even having a presence within universities to kind of support internship and practical aspects of curriculum implementation. But they should also participate in terms of nurturing universities. They should have the so-called chairs, A chair here is not this chair we're sitting on, but supporting a specific course in a university and say, we want to support the ICT department by sponsoring so many students for postgraduate, or paying for the research in this specific area of AI, so to speak, what the gentleman was talking about. So that's what I believe the industry should be more active in. And also, universities all the time engage the industry in terms of curriculum development and ensuring that the input of the industry is taken into consideration. So there is no curriculum, in my view, in this country that goes through without having the input of specific respective industries, because we need to create people, or rather to develop manpower that will be able to serve those industries. But they need to do more, not only by injecting those areas that I've mentioned in terms of funds, but also investing physical infrastructure where they can support research and other areas that are of interest to those various industries.
Right, Professor, and now we must start concluding. Of course, you are sharing in the sentiments of Mr. Boaz himself, saying that it is very important to adjust courses and to give advisory to a lot of students, who are going into the job market. I wish I had more advisory. I had a whole 1-year gap, and still I was a bit unsure when I was taking my course. A lot of information is required in this respect. Mr. Boaz, we are concluding the show. We only have, I believe, 2 minutes, so I will share it out. It will be a minute each for conclusion. Mr. Boaz, what are your concluding statements?
I think first and foremost, it is important to ensure that we have sufficient number of well-trained teachers and instructors, because I know that when we say teachers, majority of us start thinking that teachers are only up to high school. But you see, these are teachers and instructors who would guide all the young ones at all levels. It is important to have them because when you have them well developed, and indeed being able to interact with the learners, they would be able to give the kind of advisory I was talking about. But most importantly, they can also take time, and when we give a vote or a budget within the higher education, the budget on research has been dwindling. If we increase that, it would also help them to really venture into areas where just some discoveries, the eureka moments would happen in a number of our institutions of higher learning. And with that, indeed, we will find that many people would then be helping them to develop those ideas and all that, and they can blossom and become huge initiatives that would not just absorb people. Of course, people will be engaged, but they themselves would also replicate. In fact, I would consider that to be like a ripple in the pond kind of a thing, which means that you do something small, it starts getting broader and bigger, and indeed it creates also other avenues that other people would be able to help. Even the current bucket, if we are to look at it, there are many things, the service industries and all that. There's a way in which just through slight innovation, they'll find more efficient ways of doing those kind of work. Right. The marketing that used to be done in the previous years can now be done a little bit better. You're just going online. There are many platforms that you can use. So how we can tap into those, I think, is very important. But I think the very final thing, in all that we do, I think the ethical component of it, and what I place at the center, integrity, because when I mention that, it becomes clear. I think that is very useful and that is important. Right. It will enable us to realize that all of us can do good things to benefit the whole public. Not a few of us being selfish and individualistic, following or pursuing a personal or career path, which they use even when you are talking about who knows who, or how can I use money to bribe my way around. I think those are the things we must diminish. Thank you.
Mr. Boaz, thank you so much for joining us all the way from South Africa. We really appreciate it, and your sentiments have been very, very invaluable. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Of course, now I have to give it to the professor. However, we have less than a minute even. So just about 30 seconds to conclude.
I want to urge everybody, all the students out there who are now involved in selecting their programs, to come to the Open University of Kenya, where we are recognizing prior learning. It doesn't matter what grade you had early on in your life, but if you have some experience which has filled in the gap, you are welcome to join the Open University of Kenya.
The Internet
University, which is flexible with a quota of the fees that we charge. And you see, we produce very beautiful merchandise, which I want to give. Yes, at the university, we have managed to get these for purposes of telling people about the Open University, and I want to offer this to you.
Thank you so much, Professor. And as I receive my gift, thank you so much for being a part of the marketplace tonight. We really appreciate it. Of course, these topics are just to enlighten you on what exactly is happening in the marketplace of life, what exactly is happening that could help you, your business, your education, growing yourself as an individual. Thank you once again for joining us. My name is Hibak Said. Have yourselves a very lovely Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali